But if all that doesn't work, then my go-to is something that I learned from a Harley Davidson general manager some years ago. And it completely changes the way a customer looks at a payment.
So it takes some practice.
It does.
It does take some practice, but the practice part revolves around the story, not the math. The
Right.
math is super simple,
Yeah.
okay? If the math wasn't super simple, I couldn't have learned it. Rick, tell me 1183 just ain't going to work. You need a better payment.
You know, Steve, I really love that truck, but wasn't thinking it was gonna be that high. That's just too much, I'm sorry.
Rick, I completely understand, okay? What I know is you can make the payment, and what I know is you don't want to, and I don't blame you. Don't blame you a bit. Look, $1,183 times 84 months. That's what you don't want to do. I got you. Rick, you know, people know certain things about cars and trucks. This is basically a $56,000 truck. We know it's going to depreciate, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Good news is vehicles are depreciating at a much slower rate these days than they used to, but it's still going to depreciate. Everybody knows that. But here's what everybody doesn't know. Every time, and right now I'm drawing a check, okay? Every time you stroke a check for $1,183, every time you put your signature on it, every time you make it out to a lender, and every time you send it to said lender, there's a savings element to that. Did you know part of this comes back to you?
No.
No, most people don't. Every time you make a payment on this truck, you're building cash value in it. When you make your 84th payment, okay, that's 7 years from now. If you drive this $56,000 truck like you intend to drive it and use it, but you don't crash it and you don't trash it, but you don't do anything special, what do you think this $56,000 truck will be worth when you, by the way, once you send that 84th payment in, what comes back to you a couple of weeks later in the mail?
Title.
And it's just got one name on it. It's got your name. It's free and clear. But what do you think that truck will be worth in 7 years?
Less than half.
Can we say like, how about 20? That's less than
That's
half.
pretty fair depending upon the mileage on it.
Yeah.
20 grand.
Okay. So, think about this, Rick. You're going to pay $1,183 to own it, but you're not going to pay $1,183 to drive it. Okay? That I can promise you. 7 years from now, you got a truck that's free and clear. You owe nothing on it. You have no payment. You have reached the dream payment. You got a phone on you?
I do.
Pull it out. I'm not going to have you call anybody. Pull up the calculator. Divide 20,000 by 84.
$238.09.
238. Rick, do you know what that $238 represents?
No.
The amount of money you're saving every single time you stroke a check. Because metaphorically speaking, 238 of that 1183 is flowing right back to your title every time you make a payment. And if that's the case, you're not paying 1183 to drive it. You are paying you're paying a mere $945 to drive this truck of your dreams. I need your okay right down there.
Still can't afford it, Steve.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Then if that's the case, where was the mistake?
Selection.
Yeah, I've got him on a truck.
He can't afford
Too
it.
much.
Yeah. Well, didn't I say that earlier?
That's why I'm going to split payments in my mortgage story.
Isn't this really the way car payments work?
Mm-hmm.
Do any of you have a whole life insurance policy?
Yep.
Okay. Every time you make a premium payment, what are you doing? You're building cash value in your policy, aren't you? So there's a point where you can cash that policy in. There's a point where you can borrow against it. I've got term life insurance. Every time I make a payment, it's gone forever. The
Unless you
only
use it.
somebody else will benefit from it.
yeah.
I never will. It works the same way. Every time someone has a car or a truck payment, they're building cash value in it. How many customers think like this?
None.
None. I can't find any salespeople that think like this. What's easier to say yes to, Rick? 1183 or 945?
945.
945. This doesn't take. Does it take some practice? Yeah, but it's storytelling. It's everybody knows cars depreciate, but are they depreciating slower now than they ever have? Yep. Here's what everybody doesn't know.